So I just got back from seeing a new horror movie, Hokum, and let me tell you, it was hard enough to even try to find a place to see this movie. It wasn't playing at any theaters by me except for one, and it was only in that one theater for a week. So I managed to find time to go see it with friends, and damn. Now, I'm trying not to get into heavy spoilers with this because, as with every movie, I think it's great if you can experience it on your own with no prior knowledge of anything that unfolds within the story. But with that being said, there is going to be some spoilers, both thematically and talking about some scenes. Now, I'm not going to go too far into detail about the scenes, but I am going to touch upon them. I really enjoyed this movie, and I can see it becoming a Halloween classic. Something you put on in the background during Halloween parties. A lot like the Hellboy movie that came out in 2024, The Crooked Man. It just seemed like a very, I don't want to say by the numbers, because it was definitely interesting, and there was a lot of unexpected things that happened in it. It was never predictable, but it didn't go out to be unpredictable, if that makes sense. The big brushstrokes of this movie is it's a witch movie in a hotel. A guy gets trapped in a hotel with a witch. That's pretty much it. Again, there's not a ton of twists or anything crazy that happens in it, but it keeps your attention and it does keep you intrigued and wanting to see more. What I especially liked in this new movie was it was a slower burn. It wasn't a slow burn. It was definitely quicker paced than the Nosferatu remake, which dragged at some points, but it was just slow enough to keep the tension at a peak. There was a lot of really cool scares in this. There was a bunch of jump scares, sure, but they did it well. And there's a lot of nuances that I'm positive I missed the first time watching. I'm gonna have to rewatch this movie. There's a lot of things that happen in it that have deeper meanings than what I was able to grasp on my first viewing. For instance, the main character is a writer, and the story begins and he's writing a book about a conquistador and his son, and it's heavily implied that it's influenced by his own life story. He's the boy, and then his father is the conquistador, but it has a strange ending to it that didn't quite make sense to me. There was a dead goat that continued to reappear. Just a lot of nuances that really warrant a second watching. Now, as for the main character himself, I believe his name was, the movie did a fantastic job of you watching it and going, I really want this guy to get killed by the witch. I can't wait for him to die. He's a very, very unlikable character. He's very akin to people who base their whole dialogue on movies and cool characters from video games and novels. It sounds like he's trying really, really tough, really, really hard to be a tough guy, but it's just not panning out with the way he carries himself and looks. And it was about halfway through the movie where I realized this is very adjacent to the game Alan Wake. Especially at one point in the movie, it goes black and white, and you immediately think, because of the visual cues, oh, this is taking place in his head. He's dead, he's hallucinating this, and it kind of turns out to be right, but also not really. The whole cast was great, though. Besides the main character, everyone was likable. You were rooting for pretty much everybody. Even there's an asshole in the movie who's antagonistic against this other guy in the movie who's just having a good time on magic mushrooms. There's a lot of humor in it, too. Um, it was very akin to Weapons, where the humor kind of plays off the absurdity and how people would actually react. There's at one point where the character who is on magic mushrooms the whole time is telling the story about how he saw someone who died in the hotel as a ghost, pointing up at a ringing bell to a room that has been locked for years. And then he mimics pointing up at the ringing bell, and that got a laugh out of the theater, got a chuckle out of me. It was pretty funny. But all in all, this movie was a great watch. I'd give it 4 out of 5 stars. Again, I always have recency bias where as soon as I see something, I think it's amazing. I really like this movie, and if you're a fan of classic horror, I'm a sucker for witch movies too. I've been on a real Wicked Witch kick, you know. There's something about witches being like these evil entities that I really enjoy. I feel like we got away from that in recent years about witches and making them sympathetic in a lot of things, but I really enjoy it when witches are just the unredeemable evil entity. So yeah, give it a watch, see if you can find it in theaters, and let me know what you think.